Welcome. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. We are the three ExExecs, three former executive officers from interesting places, and we are here to talk to you about our journey and about our experiences. We've been talking to each other for about a year, 18 months now. We came together through an organization in the Middle East, and we've had great chats ever since. And we thought the time would come for us to share them with you out there, because we want to share the value and the experiences and the lessons and the ups and the downs that we've been through in our professional careers to help you with your professional career. So as ExExecs, three of them, that's who we are. We're going to introduce ourselves first to you, and each of us are going to say a little bit about our professional journey, our professional bio, if you like, and give you one reason why you need to tune in to us in each of our podcasts. Tarek, let's start with you, sir.
Thank you, John. Okay, so the professional background, I spent a little bit over 35 years in banking, mainly Bank of America and Standard Chartered, practically all over the world, Asia, Middle East, Europe, the US, and in different positions, typically either a CEO or a regional head or a global head for business lines, etc. I then left banking and was a group CEO for a privately held company for a short period of time in the Middle East. They were all engineers and I was the only non-engineer, so that was quite interesting. Learned a lot from that. And currently I'm actually a coach. I'm an advisor to a Silicon Valley company. I'm a visiting professor at ESCP, which is one of the best European universities. And I'm working with a number of charities. I was a trustee at a British charity before. So a portfolio of things, which teaches you a lot.
And why would you want to listen to our podcast?
I think if I was in my 30s or so on and mid-career and aiming to rise in the ranks, if you will, and lead organizations, I would want to listen to pitfalls, people that have fallen into traps, people, I wouldn't say advice necessarily, but what has worked, what hasn't worked in these turbulent times and with very little clarity on the geopolitics? What are the guiding principles that somebody like one of the three of us have? I think that would be the reason.
Great. Thanks, Tarek. Robin.
Hello, everyone. Actually, coincidentally, like Tarek, I worked in the banking industry for 35 years. And during that time, I lived and worked in 9 different countries, starting in the UK, of course, but South Africa, Canada, the US, and more recently the Middle East. During that time, I worked for 3 different banks, Barclays, HSBC, and more latterly, Al Rajhi. And I guess during that time, I just got a unique perspective from multiple cultures and multiple ways of banks operating across those environments. I'm a family man. I had 2 daughters, one in Canada and one in Australia, that were born during my travels. Personally, I love hiking, and I'm also doing a history degree. And I guess, like the others, I've reached a point in my life where I want to bring all of that experience to bear to benefit of other people. And like Tarek and John, I do a bit of coaching. And as I said, I've learned a lot, and I want other people to benefit from that unique experience.
So, Robin, what have you picked up from your history degree so far that you've enjoyed?
I think you realise that every day you have one of those aha moments where you realise that, every street is named for a reason, every place is named for a reason. And you just learn so much from history. So I just love those aha moments, which I have multiple times every single day.
So what you're illustrating is that you never stop learning, which actually is quite an important principle for our conversation about climbing the corporate ladder.
No, you never should. Whether it's your personal development at work, whether it's doing history degrees, whether it's learning by traveling, by meeting people, by operating in different cultures, you always have, no matter what age you are, you have to continue to learn for sure.
Well, that's a great segue into me, really, because I spent 30 odd years in education, in independent education, both in the UK and Australia. I was a headmaster down in Somerset in the UK for 10 years at a boarding school in fantastic Taunton School. And then I spent 8 years running Scotch College in South Australia. 2 great experiences, but both required CEO skills, both required corporate understanding, both taught me a lot beyond the French and Russian I'd done for my degree. And in both of them, we saw commercial success, which led to better educational outcomes, better programs, more imagination, more innovation in our curricula, et cetera, et cetera. So I really valued the journey that I went on and the business people that I met along the way, particularly in Australia, where I spent a lot of time with other CEOs outside of education who taught me a lot about how to run my school better. But right now, because of my degree in organizational culture, my PhD, sorry, I ought to say, in org culture, I do a bit of work with companies, not in education necessarily, although I am sitting on the advisory board of a business school in London where we're about to put on an executive master's in educational leadership. I mentor still with leaders in Australia, which makes for very early morning starts for me, but it's a great joy to do that. And I'm spending 3 days a week in a local company helping them corporatize and make themselves ready for the next stage of their development as an organization. All of it is fascinating and new, and like Robin and like Tarek, I am learning new things every day. And why would I want to listen to this podcast? Because it isn't a smooth journey. It isn't an easy journey to climb to the top of an organization, to stay there, to make a success of it, and sit back after it and think, I did a good job and I did the right thing. Comfortable with yourself is a very, very complicated journey to go on. And not many people actually get there without ruinous scars. And that's why we're here. We want you to be the kind of person, as an ex-exec yourself, possibly in the future, to look back and think, I did a good thing. Robin, back to you. I want to know a little bit more about some of the key moments, turning points, when you climbed, you did something that was a good move that got you to the next level. Some key conversation, something you learnt, an experience that you had, a turning point.
Yeah, I thought about this quite a lot as I sort of reflect back to my career. And I think probably for me, it was the decision to move overseas. It was the decision to pick up my family and take them to a foreign country. And what I realized is a lot of people in their careers say that they will travel, but actually when they're given the opportunity, they won't do it. And if I look back on one turning point in my career, it was that decision to go and work in Canada as the chief operating officer. And I think that not only increased my own experience, but I think it changed people's viewpoint of me. Oh, here's a guy who's resilient. Here's a guy who's prepared to inconvenience himself. Here's a guy who's prepared to move around the world on behalf of the company. And thereafter, many, many moves then took place. So I think if I look back, there's many, many decisions right and wrong that you make in your career. But I think that first decision to come home and discuss with my family and say, yeah, we're going to make the move, that was probably the turning point of my career. And all of the moves that subsequently really happened, I think, probably because I made that decision to move to Canada many, many years ago. So I think there's points in your career where you have to make a change. Sometimes those changes can be kind of inconvenient, quite disruptive. But if you make that change, you make that decision, I think ultimately that has all sorts of knock-on benefits. If you make the easy decision, you stay where you are, you stay in your current role, you don't have that disruption in your life, ultimately down the road, you're not going to enjoy some of the benefits that derive from it. So I would say sometimes disrupt your routines, disrupt your career and move off in different directions. Don't always take the easy lane.
Self-disruption. Tarek, you have an Egyptian background. You were born in Egypt, and they're a remarkable country with a remarkable history. And that's why you bring real richness to our conversations. I'm sure you have turning points that you want to talk to.
Actually, yeah. The ancient Egyptian civilization dwarfs everything else.
It does.
So, yeah, I'm proud of my heritage. I think I'll just mirror something that Robin said, which has become my motto on reflection over the years, which is, even now, just get comfortable being uncomfortable. If you stick within your comfort zone, yeah, okay, that's fine. But actually, life is so much richer. There's so much awe that you can get in experiencing new and different things. So if I look back, for me, it wasn't even a thought that should I work internationally or move to different countries. My parents were diplomats, and we did move quite a lot. So for me, it was a natural thing. I think one of the there's lots of learnings that came out of that. One of them was when I was with Bank of America and I was moving from London to Asia. And the first mistake I made was, oh, this is how we did it in London. It's like,
Oh yeah, classic error.
no, that's not going to work.
They love to hear that. They love to hear that.
Yeah.
Big mistake. That only lasted for a few months
Yeah.
because somebody who was a really good chap basically said, that doesn't work very well here.
But Tarek, that's an interesting debate for a future session, actually.
Yeah.
In terms of when you go into a foreign culture, how you conduct yourself, actually.
Yeah,
not
the
just
first couple of weeks.
not just a foreign culture, a completely different organization.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
you're talking about a different corporate culture. First, do you really understand? Like I moved from Bank of America to Standard Chartered, from American to British. Culture shock, right? Because resistance in both plays out very differently. So I think that absolutely is a topic we should talk about. The other realization I think in the international travel was when I was working for Bank of America in Cairo. It was a small branch. It was 100 people. But I got to experience every single facet of that branch, including the tellers, including the accounting, the proof, etc. So when I came to London and I was very singular in a particular department or division, I knew a heck of a lot more than everybody else. And I didn't realize, you're coming from a small country, small branch, but actually you understood what the balance sheet really was in a bank. You understood what the P&L on a daily basis was. So I think there are learnings in every step in your life, in your career. And I changed. I would perhaps stay in the same division for 10 years, geographically, but I changed roles or jobs every 3 years, 3 to 4 years, roughly. And this is where I pushed myself outside of my comfort zone. So, John, what about you?
Yeah, I'm a great believer in discomfort zones. But one of my key phrases when I led my schools was that we create lots of discomfort zones because schools are safe places, and so they should be. But if we can find things that challenge you and build up your resilience, I thought that was really important. A couple of things. I did the PhD. Did that when I was working. I felt I needed to stand out in a crowded field if I wanted to be a head and a school leader in a very competitive environment. I learnt a lot. I decided that I wanted to do something of a commercial nature, which was different from what other people were studying in education. And it genuinely helped my leadership to understand how culture in an organization works and how to make it work with your strategy to be successful. But something else I decided that youth didn't matter. The number on or the age, because you put your age on CVs in those days, your date of birth, that doesn't matter. If you're young, stop thinking you've got to wait 10 years. Yeah. Have a go. You learn so much from not quite getting there. You learn so much from having a go. And I always enjoyed employing young, and I always enjoyed being the youngest person in the final three for a particular role in a particular school or a particular place. Youth is a great thing. And don't feel that you have to somehow serve time. Do what Tarek has done. Learn quickly. Do what Robin did, which is to disrupt yourself. Those things will give you experience beyond your years, and people warm to that. As long as it's, like Tarek didn't quite do, it's matched with a bit of humility at the same time. But it is a great thing to move ahead. And I was appointed at 39 to run an organisation which is £20 million turnover in those days. And that, would I do that again? Of course I would. But gosh, looking back, wow, 39 years of age, and suddenly I'm in charge of 200 FTEs and 1,500 kids. I mean, it's a major step from running a boarding house on the south coast of England in Eastbourne. But do it. Absolutely do it.
But that age,
we also
that age thing can be an issue at both ends of the spectrum.
Oh, yeah.
We can use age as an excuse where we think we're too young, but we also can use age as an excuse where we think we're too old. A lot of people actually write themselves off too quickly as well. I was doing a hike recently, and someone asked me how far I was walking, and they expressed surprise at how far I'd walked. And they said, "Oh, I could never have done that at your age." And then I actually found out they were 10 years younger than me. so people don't use that number as an excuse to not do anything.
Yeah, I had an experience early on when I was like 23, 24. And I found myself sitting in front of the governor of a central bank in a country in Africa. Just solo, the two of us, right?
Wow.
And my
What a moment.
my job was to recover debt.
At 23 years of age.
You learn really quickly. But you go back to, I think, basic principles, which is yeah, you respect the elders, you listen very carefully, you ask interesting questions, but then you stick to where you can get to a win-win. It isn't just a one-way kind of thing. But anyway.
And that's your parents' DNA from diplomacy coming through you into
Yeah,
those
but
circumstances.
with a little bit of a hard nose coming from the banking
Yeah.
side. Hard-nosed
I think
diplomacy.
the motto, John, is, I think, always be on the learning curve.
Yeah.
No matter
Yeah,
what age you are,
absolutely.
never let that learning curve plateau.
Yeah. And success teaches you some things, but failure teaches you so much more. And I think there's a fear of failure in our young people sometimes. And I've seen it because there's a wish to be the very best at school, get the top marks all the time, push themselves very hard. And when something goes wrong, can they cope with it as easily? It's why we played sports a lot at school. I mean, this is the amazing thought about sport. Sport teaches you how to lose
Absolutely.
as well as how
Good
to win.
sportsman.
And that's a great thing to do. And sport also teaches you that the ref sometimes gets it wrong and life isn't fair.
I'd also,
Two great lessons from sport.
I'll pick up on that, John, because sports also, especially team sports, well, if it's solo, let's say you're a solo rower, for example,
Yeah.
teaches you resilience and self-belief. It's all in your head. It's not necessarily just physical. But if you're playing team sports and you're selfish, well, guess what? You're not going to get the ball very often and you're not going to get to score. So I think I think sports is a fantastic teacher, if you will, for working in the corporate world. And I think the other thing about learning from mistakes is actually also looking around you. And I learned, for example, from some of my worst managers, what not to be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you
good-
go back and
good point.
reflect. You say, oh my
Yeah.
God, I never want to make anybody feel the way I felt because of how they dealt with me, right? So
Yeah.
that's an important aspect. Keep those
You're
notes.
right. It's more fun to learn from other people's mistakes than your own.
Yeah.
And I think I wanted to be a teacher because I think I was taught poorly when I was at school. And I wanted to be a better
Okay.
teacher than the people I'd experienced. And I think there are examples of good and bad leadership, and that observation, that vigilance, day by day, watching the subtleties of how situations are managed, how certain things are achieved, are really informative. And I would tuck those away as little golden nuggets for when I wanted to be a leader. And I remember one very big moment when I was a young schoolmaster. I wasn't married, I didn't have kids, I didn't have any particular financial pressures, but the head had to come into a meeting and say, we've not quite made our numbers this term, I'm docking your pay by 10%.
Wow.
And I thought two things from that conversation. First of all, he had the guts to do it, and I thought that was quite important. It was a bit brutal, and it didn't matter too much to me, but it would have hurt a few family people around me. But secondly, I thought, I don't ever want to have to do that. And what do I do in my commercial budget, financial understanding and management to make sure I never get to that place?
I used to notice it in presentations a lot. You know, you're in a presentation, your boss is standing in front of a large audience, and you always know that the Q&A is a difficult situation at the end. And sometimes someone would ask a question, and you look at your boss and say, how in the hell is he going to answer that question? Right. And you learn so much just by seeing, one, how they pause, and then how they craft an answer. And the number, to be your point, John, the number of times I stored up those little ways of answering those awkward questions. Because it was easy to present something, but you're always caught out at the Q&A at the end. That's the thing you can't rehearse for. Right?
Robin, I'll pick up on something that I think for all current and future leaders is a very important issue, which is what you touched on there, is storytelling. Right?
Yeah.
It's not just presenting a bunch of slides. In fact, most of the great, impactful leaders can tell a story without any slides, right? So I think that is something that is, for the people out there that want to go forward, if you can tell a story, personalize it, humanize it, make sure that it has an impact, is quite powerful. And practicing that with somebody that's a safe environment is quite important. We used to play a game, myself and one of my co-heads. He would just before you get up to present some set of very difficult numbers or whatever it is, he would say, I'm going to give you a word. Try to weave this word in your speech or in your talk. And he wouldn't tell me what the word is until I just about to get up. And he would say, cheese. You're talking about financials. You're talking World Economic Event. So actually what I did is I said, who moved my cheese? Do you remember that book?
Actually, John, it makes me think that presenting, and that could be the topic of or further conversation, because I think we've all got
Definitely.
huge amounts of learnings in that particular area, good and
Oh,
bad.
yeah.
Definitely. And in cultural terms, people
Oh,
remember
yeah.
speeches
Yeah.
very, very powerfully. Corporate memory is a very important phrase. Things get put into the corporate memory, which are joint experiences, which have an impact, positive or negative. And getting the speech right at your annual review, or even those smaller things that you do with smaller teams, absolutely vital. And we will come back to that. That's really important.
Yeah, let's,
But we
let's
were
do that,
talking.
because in,
Yeah.
in my sort of coaching experience, that's the thing people want to talk about very, very often.
They're usually very scared of it, right?
Yeah,
Even though,
and they want to be good.
yeah, even though, I mean, historically, you go back to the caveman era, that's sitting around the fire. That was the storytelling of how the other
Yeah.
generations developed, etc. So inspiring people, moving them forward, etc., storytelling is quite important, I think. So
I think I think as we're being a bit, we're honest and we're beyond our careers a little bit. What mistakes have we made which we can confess to in this open place where thousands of people are listening in, Tarek or Robin or me? What kind of mistakes have we made that we could offer as instructions for our listeners?
Shall I go first?
yeah,
Yes,
go
because
for
you've
it.
got more, I think, Robin. I think you've probably got
I've
you've
got
got a
many.
bigger, whereas
got many.
Tarek's led this sort of impeccable career. He's really worried now he can't find. He's have to make something up. I think I can feel it coming. You know.
I'm just getting my goal.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
No, you know what? One of the, I think if I look back, and it's a strange thing to say, but I think I was too modest. I think I
How
was
interesting.
too self-effacing. I didn't push myself at times, what I should have done, only to find out afterwards that people had expected me to do something that I didn't. You
Yeah.
should have put yourself forward for that job. You should have expected to be considered a candidate for that job.
Yeah.
The organisation expected you to put yourself forward, and I just focused on doing the job, and probably should have spent a bit more time in pushing myself forward and being less modest. So I think if I had my time again, I would do most things the same, but I'd be a bit more pushy and maybe
Yeah.
not so modest and self-effacing.
Right. I'm going to push you now, Robin, and say what moments particularly. Just give us a story. Come on, we like our stories. What moment?
There was a story which I'll be very honest about. There was a situation where I was the deputy CEO of a part of HSBC. The CEO left to take on a large role in government, and there was a position for that role to be replaced. I stepped up as the deputy CEO to do it for a period of time, and just focused on the job, getting stuff done, and never for one moment consider myself to be an applicant for that job. Only to be told when they actually found someone to do that job that I had been considered, and perhaps I should have been a little bit more pushy putting myself forward. So that's a real line, for example. Would I have got the job? No, but reflecting, I should have pushed myself a bit more. But one thing you learn is that people devote time to manoeuvring themselves in the background for roles. And if you're too innocent and too simplistic about things, you're not considered.
Yeah.
Particularly when you get to the high levels in an organisation.
Yeah. Tarek, what about you?
It's sort of on reflection. I think there never is a dramatic mistake in the sense that you can always learn from what went wrong if you're honest enough with yourself and you look at it. Well, probably the biggest one was I hadn't even realized, and this was with Standard Chartered, when I was a global head of a particular business, and I had just shifted from Bank of America to Standard Chartered. I didn't spot, or I hadn't even thought about the cultural difference, corporate cultural difference, right? So I was embarking on, this is obvious, this is the change we need to make. And I didn't have friends or allies in the organization. I just arrived, right? I'm an outsider. And after a period of time, I lost my confidence because I said, oh, it's so obvious. What am I doing here? And I actually ended up working with a coach, an ex-Buddhist monk. And I learned from that experience that I had this unconscious attachment to outcomes. So if the outcome was X, I was good. If the outcome didn't happen, then I wasn't that good. So this self sort of flagellation, if you will, because of that. And what I came out from that experience is that I learned how to rewire my brain, how to realize what is important. And I think out of that came a lot of stuff around empathy, about kindness, about listening to people and becoming a much better leader than the, sort of command and control center type leader that I probably was before. And I became a lot less selfish in that process. And the more you do that, the more you attract people that you can lead. You still have, you set high visionary goals and lots of things that you can do for the organization together, but it's no longer about you, right? It's more about the people that you're leading and the organization and having a positive impact, having a good positive impact on the society you're in, the organization you're in, etc. Eventually that comes back in multiplied effect, if you will. But yeah, so I think the you can recover that loss of confidence that I had. It didn't last very long, but it took a lot of hard work to rewire. And I think being human, as a leader, that authenticity of being, who you really are, and accepting feedback and criticism, etc., and learning from it and all of that. So yeah, it's quite important.
It's a very interesting word, rewiring, isn't it?
Yes.
It's because it means more than just learning something new.
Yeah.
It means completely changing your perspective and consistently applying that change of perspective.
Yeah.
And forsaking a previous bad habit of thinking and adopting the new one. And that takes discipline. It takes a lot of time to embed that. That's a real challenge.
It's, there's a lot of science behind it because in neuroscience, neuroplasticity of the brain until the day we die, if we wish to, and Robin, in your coaching, I'm sure you're familiar with this as well, you start adopting certain habits and you basically create new neural pathways. And that is incredibly powerful because we are only scratching the surface of what our brains are capable of. And a lot of the time where you try to benchmark against somebody else or the concept of, oh, they caused me pain and why did they cause me the second arrow and the first arrow and all of these different things, they're all in our heads. So we should be able to control that and basically have a different, and actually from a business point of view, those filters that you put in place prohibit certain amounts of data coming in and being assessed properly for you to make a good decision. And in the current environment that we're in, boy, do you need a lot of data points to be able to make decisions. Because at the moment, if you just rely on AI, ChatGPT is not going to give you all the right answers all the time. Yes, it's a great tool, but you need to use critical thinking. And I think that rewiring helps quite a bit. It gives you a whole new landscape to play with. So yeah,
actually, this session has proven useful, isn't it? Because it's highlighted a lot of other things we should probably dig a bit deeper into in the future. I mean, even the subject of coaching, are they useful? Are they not useful? Why Tarek had a Buddhist coach and not more conventional coach, executive coach? So that's another area we should explore moving forward as well.
The sort of self-management in a leadership position and who you draw upon in those self-management processes, because the top of the tree, you cannot do everything, and you are not equipped for every situation coming your way. This is where my mistake came in, which was we were about 3 days short of the start of the summer term, and I was having lunch with my family. It was Sunday lunch, and we got a call that one of our recent leavers, who'd been working in the school since she left the school the previous September, and now we're in March the following year. She'd gone to South America, and was on a backpacking trip and had been killed in an awful coach crash. And it was national news because it was a very particular kind of accidents, and children, a lot of young people were killed in that particular accident, and the news was what it was. I got to work the day after, and I got there early, as I always did, but by 8 o'clock I had Sky News, BBC, and somebody else. Their vans were outside the front of the school, and I did a day of live to camera stuff because she was a fabulous, fabulous, fabulous student, and we were very, very grieved. And then the phone calls and the school grieving process, because schools are very close communities, began to happen. And after about 4 days of trying to get the plans together and to get school started and plan the funeral and talk to the family and all the press and everything else, my PA came in and said, "You haven't thought about me once, and I'm taking all your phone calls for you."
Wow.
And I realized that the support network for me, I was not looking after.
Because I don't. It was interesting.
Can I just finish here? Just to say, Robin, just finish what she was, like most head PAs, the most outstanding intellect and the most precious partner. She wasn't a secretary. She was a colleague. She was a confidant. She was all sorts of powerful helps to me, and I was not looking after her. And that really taught me a lesson.
Mm. No, it's interesting. And I was thinking, I was coaching someone the other day, a senior guy, and I thought afterwards, I should have had someone like me when I had my guy. I never had a coach. I never thought I needed a coach. No one ever offered me a coach. But actually, after I spent an hour with this guy, I was thinking, actually, I would have really benefited from having someone like me to talk to in those lonely moments, when I had nobody else to share something with. So that was quite an interesting revelation, because I never did.
That is so true. When you're heading towards the top of an organization, there's this fear, or we should actually take the whole topic of fear and anxiety and sort of drill into that, because there's this fear of, who do you trust? Who can you talk to? And unfortunately, that I've realized quite a lot of senior leaders at the top of their game feel incredibly lonely. And that's why I got into coaching, because I realized their lives, their careers went into complete spiral downwards because they weren't finding trusted counsel, right? And I think that, when you're in your 30s, 40s, and you have in your organization mentors that you can sit and have a coffee with and a real honest chat, those are so valuable. And this is not about fast networking, speed dating and stuff. No, this is somebody that can observe you over a period of time and give you that honest counsel. That is, even outside the organization, that's a good thing to do.
I've just very joyfully seen one of my colleagues offered a headship in Australia, and I'd done a bit of mentoring with that individual, and they had worked long and hard to get to a position, had a few bumps on the way, and she's got a cracking story about how she's managed through her resilience, etc. But the joy of that was great. The first phone call was fantastic, celebratory, well done, what you deserve. But I said to her as well, we need to have a conversation, because the rubber hits the road here now, and you need someone who asks you hard questions. And we all need somebody who who don't take the CEO, CFO, COO, top exec label and fear it. They get behind it because they know what to ask, and they know where your weaknesses are, and they know what you need to be looking at. Because the higher we get, we can send out signals that we are invulnerable, that we are somehow superior, and we are not. And we need that clever mind, like Robin is, I have no doubt, and Tarek, you would be too, to ask the really penetrating questions that bring us down to earth. Usually it's your kids, actually, oddly enough. They can do the same thing. But it can also be a professional who knows what they're looking at. Yeah. I think that's kind of quite a nice little signature to bring us to the end of our first podcast. Is this need to explore a bit further the whole coaching and self-management process. I've got a couple of other things written down here. Presentations, something we need to look at. And Tarek has also looked at the psychology, managing how to handle our fears and the stresses and our well-being. Actually goes beyond just the coaching aspect, but also other things that we can talk about with diet, health, all those kind of things. So it's been lovely to have your company. We hope you've enjoyed this conversation as much as we have, because we always enjoy each other's company. For many, many months now, we have met on a regular basis and had conversations like this, and now we're happy to share them with you. We will be back with you with another podcast very soon. If you've enjoyed this podcast, we hope you pass it to a friend. It's something good to share, and we hope you also tune in to see us, to listen to us again and see us very soon. Our email address is 3execs. ExExecs, that's 3EXS at gmail.com. In the show notes down below. Also, you have our LinkedIn profiles. If you want to contact us personally, you're very welcome to do so. This podcast will be on all the usual platforms, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, etc. But do feel free to email us questions. If there are topics you want us to cover, we'll have a go at them, because they're important to you, and if they're important to you, they're important to us.